Hello, and welcome to episode 94 of Design Curious Podcast. I'm your host and mentor, Rebecca Ward. Today on the podcast, I have an interview with Andrea Liebross. You might remember I had her on the podcast back in episode 32. She was great. I loved speaking with her, and you can go back and listen to that if you'd like to get more of her after listening to today's episode, if you haven't already. And as a reminder, Andrea is a coach, a speaker, a podcast host, and now a published author of the book, She Thinks Big, which is an amazing book I just read. And today we are talking with her about the book and different aspects, my favorite parts from it, and a lot of great things in there. So you're going to love today's interview. Don't forget, I have a lot of wonderful things for you in the show notes, links to downloads, a quiz, information about my design mentor if you want to work with me personally. All right, now let's talk with Andrea. You're now listening to Design Curious, a place where you, creative one, are here to learn about what it really is like to be an interior designer. And I'm your host and mentor, Rebecca Ward. If you're worried about how to succeed in a creative career, if you're ready to learn your next steps to become an interior designer, and if you want the satisfaction of doing something you love every day, you are in the right place. Grab a coffee, a notebook, and let's dig into today's episode. Hi, Andrea. Welcome back to Design Curious Podcast. So great to have you here today again.
Again, thanks, Rebecca, for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, you were on the podcast last year, episode 32. We'll put a link to that. And it's such great advice that you had for everyone, knowing your GPS, where you're going and everything. And since then, your book has come out called She Thinks Big. And so we're going to talk about thinking big today and a little bit about your book. So why don't we just get into it and talk about what does it mean to think big?
What does it mean to think big? So I think what's interesting is that most time people can resonate with what thinking small is. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Small people resonate with, like, they think it's safe, it's comfortable, it's what you're used to, not risky, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's all thinking safe. But thinking big is kind of harder to define and wrap your head around for more than a minute. So how I like to think about thinking big is it's as if the future you, okay, so the person who you want to be is talking to you right now and telling you, hey, of course you should go for it. Mm-hmm. You will 1000% succeed. That investment you made is going to pay off. Mm-hmm. So in order to think big, like big thinkers have to be able to access future you. Small thinkers are kind of thinking more from their past experiences. Well, I know myself and I know what will happen. Okay, that's like the past. Or the present. And everybody's very familiar with the present because you're in the present.
Right.
So I would say the past can be a teacher, but it is not a fortune teller. Okay. It's not telling you what's going to happen in the future. So you've got to kind of conjure up an image. And I truly say, like, picture yourself 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, and ask that person what you should do today. So that's kind of the basic premise of big thinking. And then there's a lot that goes into it. I created this acronym TRUST, T-R-U-S-T.
Okay. Yeah. Let's go through that.
Yeah. So T, big thinkers trust. Okay. And the first T of trust stands for thought options.
Okay.
So actually I was talking about this earlier on a coaching call where actually an interior design someone's into window treatments. She just got her own studio space.
Okay.
And really way ahead of schedule. Like, this was something she was thinking about doing next year, but this space became available and she went for it. And of course, it's not just the leasing of the space. Now she's redoing the space. There's a lot of money going out the door.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And she said to me, I'm freaking out that this isn't all going to work and I'm going to look like a fool having done this. And maybe I'm not going to be able to afford what I'm doing. All of those, like, what if kind of questions. And this is a huge risk. And she kept using risk. So I said to her, okay, we could think about it like that. Okay. But we also have the option to think about it differently. We could think, of course, this was the best decision I've made. I am going to make this back times 10. this is what I need to do to grow my business. All of those thoughts, I define a thought as just a sentence in your head.
Okay.
Not a question, but a sentence in your head. So all of those thoughts are equally as available to you as the other set that you had.
Yes.
And, I said, you can just as easily think this is the best decision ever as you could also think I don't know what I'm doing. This is a bad idea. So they're I call it equally available to you. So big thinkers recognize that they have thought options. And a lot of what I do, actually, it was funny because in this call, she's like, well, can you give me a lot of options? Can you be my option creator? So I said, sure. I said, but I want you to send me a list of 10 thoughts that you have kind of on automatic, that you haven't reconsidered. Mm-hmm. And then let's turn those into something different that's actually going to fuel you and help you think bigger. So that's the T.
Okay.
That's the T. R stands for real problem. Okay. So I'll keep using this example because it's perfect. So I said, okay, so what's the real problem here? Do you not have enough money in the bank? Did something go wrong with the build out? Are there no clients coming in? She's like, no, I've got money. Build out's going fine. I have more clients than I know what to do with. I said, okay, so what's the real problem? Yeah. Well, the real problem is a feeling. The real problem is fear or feeling inadequate or confusion. The real problem, 99% of the time, the real problem is not necessarily a problem. It's just a feeling that you don't want to have. And big thinkers recognize that is what the case is 99% of the time. It's just a feeling, especially newer entrepreneurs. They're not used to feeling that way. Like they think it should be going away. Like I already felt this 6 months ago. Shouldn't I be beyond this, past this? No, you shouldn't because you're human.
Yeah.
Right. Again, a lot of what I'm doing is helping people recognize that when I even said to her, I said, okay, so what's the problem? Like, let's go back a little bit because people are giving me these big, long stories of how let's sift this down. There's no problem. It's just that she doesn't want to feel this way.
Okay.
But you're so in it. She's so in it, like she can't even see that on her own.
Right. She's not pausing to recognize the feelings that she's having and identifying it. Yeah.
Not like there's no judgment here, right? She's human, but this is what's happening. Yeah. All right. So that was R. R is real problem, which is really just a negative feeling. U stands for embrace the unknown or embrace uncertainty. So no one likes not knowing what's going to happen. Yeah. Everybody loves a plan. Everybody likes path clearly delineated. She's someone that always tells me she needs her ducks lined up in a row. Okay. But really, honestly, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
We don't know what this is going to look like in a year. We don't know. Yeah. And that's okay. So I always add that phrase at the end, and that's okay. And big thinkers embrace the unknown. So small thinkers, remember, they're in the present. They know what's happening right now. They know what happened last year, but they don't necessarily know what's going to happen in the future. But if you can get yourself to think bigger, then you're okay with all of that unknown. And that truly is honestly a skill that you've got to kind of practice and develop and figure out how you can reframe things. And then it's not always reframing it to be like poly positive here. This isn't like where we're going, but just to even get to a place of neutral. Like just neutral, like think of a car, just get to just put it in neutral. Okay. Not going forward, it's not going backward, we're in neutral.
Yeah.
So that's the U, what U stands for.
Okay.
S. So the S in trust. S stands for securing support. I don't know anyone out there, and you tell me if you do know someone. I don't know anyone out there who is thinking bigger, who is, and I'm going to put this in air quotes, successful, whatever that means, who doesn't have a support system or team. Okay.
I don't know anyone.
You know anyone? I don't know. Like coaches have coaches.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's a great example. 100%. Or, even like Bill Gates, he's got people he's talking to all the time that are supporting him in his decisions. Okay. So I think though, as entrepreneurs, especially people who have been successful in other careers, I have people that have been like commercial bankers and real estate agents and lawyers. Now they're into this next phase of their life and they're starting a business. You cannot do this alone. You can't.
No. Yeah.
You just can't. Even if you are a master at your craft or your service, like you nail it, just running the business in and of itself, you cannot do alone, no matter what anyone tells me. So what does support look like? It can look like software can support you. Okay. It can look like your family supporting you. But what I think when I say secure support, what I'm really talking about is having some outside perspective, having someone who can sort of serve as your board of directors, right?
Yeah.
So in my coaching communities, I'm always like, look, you just created your own board of directors. All these people are willing to help you, because what goes on is that we get stuck in our own little peanut butter jar. Like we're so in it that we can't see what's happening around us. It's so sticky in there that you can't even get your head up to see what's happening. Like, where's the jelly? Like you can't even see it. So we need that support. So it's an investment, right? So you've got to invest time, money, or energy into seeking that support. And your family, they're supporting you, or your spouse is supporting you in a different way. Like their job is to love you. It is not to tell you like where you might be going wrong or to give you another opinion. Like let them stay in their lane and seek other support outside of friends and family, because they're also supposed to be your cheerleaders, right? So letting them cheer, keep letting them cheer, and then let someone else take on the role of supporting you with a lot of your decision making is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And then the last T of trust stands for take action. So I also find, especially with newer entrepreneurs, they are not sitting around doing nothing. That is not what I'm saying. But what they're doing is taking passive action. So they are researching. They are listening to podcasts, which I love podcasts. I have my own podcast too. Okay. They're reading books. I clearly like books. Okay. But that's all passive action.
Yeah.
That's like not taking massive action or steps towards doing something. So if I had $1 for every time someone said, I just don't think I'm ready to blah, 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 I've got to look more into X. And maybe you do need to look more into X, but 9 times out of 10, it's just that you're fearing, this is the feeling part, you're fearing taking that next best step, the true step of reaching out, making an offer, leasing a space, right? That's all massive action. And big thinkers are okay with taking that massive action. So T, trust. T is thought options. R is real problem. U is embrace the unknown. S is secure support. And the last T is take massive action.
That's great. That's a great summary of the book. And I've been reading it and really noticed the theme going through, that fear and resisting feeling certain feelings that are uncomfortable and going out of your comfort zone, or feeling something that, like, just any unpleasant feeling really holds you back from taking any action. And so it's getting comfortable with that uncomfortableness in order to move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of my favorite areas of the book that you were talking about is being committed, and not just being partly committed or even overcommitted in your schedule, but being very focused and extraordinarily committed to doing something, because that means that you're going to be 100% on board. You're going to have your back. You're going to know when to say no to things because you're so focused on that right thing and committed to doing it and seeing it through. That was one of my favorite areas of the book, was being committed. And I think that really can resonate with the audience, because I have people coming to me in my mentorship program and through the podcast who are like, I've always wanted to do interior design, but I've been in finances for my whole life. And now I want to follow my passion, but maybe I can just dabble with it on the side, and then not really taking that full commitment to go to the next level. What would you say to them?
So this is kind of a classic case of being interested, but not necessarily committed.
Yes.
Okay. So this is a really great distinction to be able to make for yourself. When someone says, well, I mean, I'm just going to dabble, okay, or I'm going to do this. It's almost like it's a jobby. I call it a jobby. It's like a hobby, but kind of a job, a jobby. Okay. So you're not all in. You are not at 100% capacity, not approaching this at 100% capacity. And when you're just interested, also, you're not making decisions. You're not like, why is it taking me so long to reach out to Rebecca? Like, what's my problem?
Yeah.
Your problem is that you're just interested in reaching out to Rebecca. You're not committed to reaching out to Rebecca. I see it too when people are thinking like, oh, I should change my packages. Okay. But I really did think about that. I haven't done it yet, but I've been thinking about it for 6 months. Okay. Why haven't you really done it? Like, let's get real. Don't tell me you didn't have enough time, because that's not true either. Well, when they think about it, maybe they're just interested in having some different packages, but they're not committed to doing what it might take, or even talking about it.
Yeah.
Letting the world know. Right. But when you shift into this committed, then like extraordinary things start to happen. And another way to think about committed is, and committed versus, or just let's go with committed. Committed means you're making a decision. Okay. And it's like a big, big decision. Let's say that you have decided that you're going to get married and it's going to be a monogamous relationship. You're only going to have one partner, and you are committed to that person. So when someone says to you, hey, we're having a party and you can take a date, okay, the choice of who to take is like a no-brainer. It's not even a choice. You're going to take your spouse. So once you commit to something, once you decide on something, all the little choices underneath get really easy. Get really easy. So if you commit to leaving corporate and starting your own business, and you literally like cut the cord, which is totally scary, because now you're maybe not having a steady income and all the things that mean that, you're going to make choices though really quickly and easily, because you have to, because now you don't have that something else to fall back on.
Right.
Okay. So if you can commit and i.e. decide, then it makes all the other choices much more clearer. You get clarity, and it actually becomes less confusing, and you kind of take a little bit of a burden off your back.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So this committed versus interested decisions and choices, recognizing that, or what you're not deciding on, sometimes also does take that support system to help you do that. But once you do, it's like a whole weight has been lifted off your shoulders.
Yeah. And when you're in that position before you make the commitment, and you're like, well, what if it's the wrong choice to commit to? Yes. Like, what if I'm making the bad decision? And I love it in the book, you're like, well, what's the worst that can happen? Like, just asking that, like, oh, what's the worst that can happen? Usually there's, like, okay, you find out that wasn't the right direction, and then you can make another direction. Like,
right. Like, it's like, what's the worst thing that can happen? Is it worse than you not doing anything at all, than just staying stagnant? 99% of the time, it is not worse than you just staying stagnant. What's interesting too is that I do something called a vision into action intensive. So we kind of extract, and I'm using the word extract because it's usually not like right in the forefront. We extract the vision of what you want your business to look like and your life, so the whole you to look like, and then we turn it into action steps. And through that process, I've actually made a couple of people cry. Not that that's what I'm aiming to do, but I'm giving them permission to voice what they want to commit to, but are afraid to. So it's almost as if like no one's ever asked them what they really, really, really want to commit to or try to go after. And when they do that, it's such a release of emotion, because then they get clarity, and then they can honestly start to commit to it. But until then, they haven't expressed that. It all just stays in this like interested realm, fuzzy realm. And then it's even better, because then we take, okay, so there's the vision. What are we going to do? Like, let's create some action steps. It's almost like creating a business plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. So your book is called She Thinks Big. And so you're definitely directing towards women. And I know that you're coaching, yeah, your heart is for women and that you just love working in that area. Do you find that oftentimes women need to be given permission a lot more to make these decisions, whether it's cultural,
Yes.
what they were growing up with? Because I felt the same way. Like I had to go through some life coaching to like really understand that I was waiting for someone to give me permission to be a full-time person and be a mom at the same time, but not necessarily be a full-time stay-at-home mom, which I thought I wanted to do when I was little, but then it changed. Yeah. So I was waiting for someone to give me permission to be like, yeah, I can be an entrepreneur and own a successful business. And so,
Right. I find that all the time,
yeah.
And a lot of times it will come up when I'm on a consult call or strategy call and I'm like, okay, so does this sound good to you? Is this something you're interested in moving forward with?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes, totally. But I just need to think about it for a day or two. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly I'm about thinking, right? So I can support that. But I say to them, do I have permission to put my coach hat on? Sure. What exactly are you thinking about? What about this are you thinking about? And really, a lot of times what it comes down to is giving themselves permission to move forward, to invest in themselves, or they're going to ask their spouse or someone for permission, right? It's about permission. It's really what it comes down to. And the interesting part about that, if they're going to ask someone else, it's like that person is not in your business. So they don't even know what you're asking for permission for. They're not going to be the ones that are going to do the work. They're not the committed one.
Yeah.
Right. But you kind of want that as a security blanket. Like you're thinking, there's your support. Oh, yeah. They thought it was a good idea. So if this quote unquote doesn't work, whatever that means, then they're in it with me.
Right. They share the blame.
They share the blame. So I see that. And then also giving yourself permission. Pretend you didn't even ask someone, like, should I be spending any of my most valuable resources on this? Is this a smart decision? But you've got to give yourself permission, honestly, to think bigger. Like, yes, this is a good decision because it's going to project me forward. So I see that in the very beginning. And then as businesses start to evolve, I see this permission thing rear its head again when we're talking about scaling or even just the growth phase where you've kind of outgrown the original things that you used to start the business, which could be just like Google Docs and Google Drive. Okay.
Yeah.
Or it could be you've outgrown, I don't know, design files and you need to like upgrade to MyDoma, whatever that is. Okay. So they need to give themselves permission that it's okay now to spend some of the money that they have created because they think that they should be, putting that all back into home or whatever the case is. This whole like investing time, money, and energy and investing into people is permission filled. But I think one of my famous lines is, okay, I am giving you permission to move forward. Yeah. Like I am giving you permission to commit to that. And that's really all they want. They want someone to give them permission.
I just want to hear that. Yeah.
Right? Like I am giving you permission to think that investing and leasing this space is perfect.
Yeah.
Because what's the worst thing that could happen?
Yeah. Because you've been working with them to really help them iterate what it is that they need to do next. And then just say like, okay, do that.
Right. And then they freeze.
Yeah.
I've never done that before. I'm not sure how's it going to go. We don't know. Embrace the unknown. So this all kind of comes like full circle because you can kind of be a circle unless you kind of extract yourself from it and start to think about your business as a business entity in and of itself, even like legally on paper, hopefully. And you are a human. And what the business does is not a reflection on you. You're just a human running the business. Yeah. So yes, I give you permission to have your business invest in X.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's great that you can be that kind of advocate for people too as their coach. So
yeah.
Yeah. And so I think another thing about the thinking big in business is that you're always kind of dreaming about where you want to go with your business and it's never stagnant. And understanding that change will need to happen at some point, because I think sometimes people are like, okay, I'm just going to get in business. I'm going to have a couple clients and that'll be it. And I'll be happy. I'll do that for the rest of my life. But usually once you get to that point, you're like, well, then I want to grow. I want to hire someone, and then I want a studio, and then I want
Yes.
it's going to change and it's going to grow. But that change is really uncomfortable too.
It is.
And so just like holding on to your dream and where you're going to go.
I always say being an entrepreneur is really a journey in personal development disguised as an entrepreneurial adventure.
Yes. That's
right. It's just
so perfect.
That's what it is.
It is. It is. Well, I think everyone needs to go out and buy this book and read it, because they have so many great advice and nuggets in there. And I think that even after reading it, though, that they're going to be like, I need more Andrea. So tell us again how people can get in touch with you if they want to work with your coaching program or listen to your podcast.
So the easiest way is to go to Andrea's with an S, links.com, andreaslinks.com. And that's going to link you up to the podcast, which is called Time to Level Up. And you can listen to that on Apple and Spotify and all the places. Time to Level Up. It also will link you to the book, and She Thinks Big. There's also a workbook that goes with it. And you can also purchase that on Amazon or any of your favorite book sellers. Mm-hmm. And then it's going to link you to my website. And, I'm always open to having just a complimentary conversation about what working together might look like. I kind of say sometimes too, that even if we decide that we're not a good match, the value you find on that call is like worth thousands of dollars, because I probably am going to ask you some questions. Mm-hmm. It's going to kind of help you see what's really going on outside the peanut butter jar.
Yeah.
So you can book a call through that Andrea's links as well. And always feel free to message me on social media. I'm on Instagram a lot, LinkedIn, not Facebook so much anymore.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah.
So andreaslinks.com. And wait, one more thing. There's 2 quizzes on that Andrea's links.
Fun.
And one of them is really helping you understand what state your business is in. And one of them addresses what type of productivity archetype are you? So if you feel like you're stuck in this interested thing, mm-hmm. okay, and are having trouble getting things going or getting things completed, take that quiz and it might help you.
Fabulous. Yes, we'll include all those links. And any other great advice before we let you go for our audience?
I think that you don't know everything, nor should you know anything. So you have to give yourself permission to not know.
Yeah.
And I think if you're going to create a business that you feel good about, that you feel really good about, you can do that on your own, but you're going to pay, so to speak, in time and energy and exhaustion. Or you can build a business that you're proud of and have that support to go along with it. It's like, I always say, like, you're going to pay one way or the other. Mm-hmm. Like you're going to pay in not blood, sweat, and tears, but you're going to pay in confusion, or you're going to pay to have your board of directors or a guide to go alongside you. So it's kind of like, which one do you want to do?
Right.
And it's almost like you're released from the torture chamber too, when you commit, when you make a decision.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, it's freeing. So if you're looking for some freedom, come talk to us.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Andrea, for coming on again, and love talking with you again.
Thanks for having me, Rebecca.
So I really do highly recommend this book. It was a great read, a lot of food for thought. I think I'm actually going to go through it again with the workbook that she's published. And I know that is a great way to actually take in all of that information she's going through and apply it to your life. So that's what I am going to be doing this summer. I hope you will join me in that. Again, check out all of Andrea's information in the show notes. You can go and listen to her podcast as well. It's a great one that I do listen to from time to time. And that's it for this week. So stay tuned for another great episode next week. And until then, stay creative. Thanks for listening. If you love this episode, please leave a rating and a review. This helps me reach other curious creatives like you. If you have a topic request or would like to contact me, simply head over to my website, rwarddesign.com, or email me at podcast@ourwarddesign.com.